December 31st, 2025, which means, of course, that later on this evening, it'll be New Year's Eve, and folks will be reflecting on the year 2025 and what's coming up in 2026 as well. So, definitely, this will be the first year of the second term of the Donald Trump administration. President Donald Trump, and all along those lines. And of course, people are wondering about the economy, wondering about what's going on with the various negotiations on peace, whether that's in Gaza, whether that's in Ukraine and Russia, or whether that's in a number of other places that are facing these kind of crises, and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that we might be talking about here. I know that some people around the world are already on New Year's Eve, since it's about 11 hours ahead in some parts of the world. And of course, they're getting ready to start their celebrations. And of course, we'll be getting to ours in about 14 hours and all along those lines. So we definitely are curious to see what people have to say about what's going on in their world and what they're doing to celebrate the New Year's and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that folks will be talking about in the news and with the news and everything like that. So definitely a lot of people are concentrating on the news of the day and seeing how it is impacting them and what they might be doing as they continue going around their day and getting prepared for the celebrations and all along those lines. So, like I said, there's a lot going on in the world. We'll be talking about those items and seeing what various news sources have to say about what's taking place in the world and around the world and all along those lines. So definitely keep in mind that there are a lot of top stories, even as we end 2025. CIA strike brings Trump closer to grave New Year decisions on Venezuela. And China announces it has successfully completed Taiwan military maneuvers. Iceland records the hottest Christmas on record as temperatures near 20 degrees Celsius that they were now getting around to reporting to us as well. So definitely that's something that people are talking about and seeing what's going on in that space. HHS freezes all child care funding to Minnesota, citing blatant fraud. And Asia rings in 2026, and Australia is defiant after its worst mass shooting. And definitely it looks like Meta's newest acquisition Target got around worries over its ties to China. Zoran Mamdani is set to be sworn in as mayor as New York City rings in the new year. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. So definitely Zoran Mamdani will become mayor of New York City as the clock ticks over into 2026, but the celebrations are set to last through New Year's Day. The Democratic team is planning two separate swearing-in ceremonies on Thursday. SNAP benefit map shows states with junk food ban in 2026. And actually, the state just to the south of me in South Carolina is one of those states, as is the state just to the north of me as well. So both Virginia and South Carolina, and it looks like Florida and a number of other states have a junk food ban. And Trump tariffs hit America, a rising costs and global backlash. Zelensky is suggesting that Trump fly to Ukraine to help end the war. New laws in 2026 target AI and deepfakes, paid leave, and rise in Obamacare premiums, and the latest deep sea search for the missing Malaysia Airlines flight 370 is underway. So a deep sea search for Malaysia Airlines flight 370 began in the Indian Ocean on Wednesday, reviving efforts to solve one of aviation's greatest mysteries more than a decade after the jet vanished with 239 people on board. I'm gonna get ready to bring in Rick Rosner. We'll talk about these stories and others as well, and also see if he's got any New Year's resolutions or New Year's plans, and maybe even for New Year's Eve, or he'll be like possibly even me sitting at home just chilling, or I might go to see a friend of mine's open mic, still trying to play that by ear and see what the cash flow looks like as well. New images are offering a closer look at demolition for the White House ballroom. So that's definitely something that people are still going to be talking about in 2026 and all along those lines. And Boston went big on luxury condos. The buyer didn't show up. Babies will get their $1,000 Trump accounts in 2026, along with tax complications. So if you got a baby, you might be getting $1,000 Trump account starting in next year. And next year, just around the corner and all along those lines. The nation's 250th anniversary arrived with a call for year-round community service. So the U.S. Semi Quincennial Commission wants to turn America's 250th birthday celebration into the country's single biggest year for volunteering. But America Gives, the program unveiled Wednesday, well, is definitely something that we will be talking about and learning more about as well. And Trump administration is looking at revoking some things also. So this ought to be interesting also to see how that plays out. It looks like I just got cut off, so we're going to see if I can get myself back on and all along those lines. But definitely hold on one second. But yeah, see if I can figure out what's going on there and what just happened. But we're going to try to get back on and all in that space. But yeah, definitely a lot's going on in the world. I'm bringing in the Rick Rosner and see what's happening with him, see what's happening with some of my other people as well, and seeing how they're handling their holidays and all along those lines. So hold on one second. Looks like I might have frozen or something along those lines. That's why you got to love technology. It doesn't always want to work when you want it to work and everything like that. But definitely going to bring in my folks and see what they've got to say about what's going on in their world. So definitely I've got Rick Rosner with me, and I've also got Dr. Sharif and everything like that. So definitely, Rick, how are you doing today? Got any big plans for the New Year's Eve and celebration and all along those lines?
A lot of grocery stores have a bargain corner for stuff that's almost expired. And I found a giant bottle of fizzy white Zinfandel for $6. And so my wife and I will just stay home and use that for toasting the New Year. So we'll have the cheapest New Year of all, $6 New Year. Because New Year's a terrible holiday for them. You know, they soak you. I bet you there are places in LA that charge you, I don't know, $800 per person to go sit there and celebrate.
Wow, that's a lot of money per person and everything. So you think they charge that much?
I'm sure I could Google around and find some fancy that would be like, you know, $1,500 for two people. But even like the regular places would want to charge you, you know, $150 a person for a little dinner and, you know, some champagne and maybe some dancing. You know, it's an expensive holiday. Plus, you don't want to be out because
it is one of the more expensive holidays, isn't it?
Plus, you don't want to be on the road with icy conditions plus drunk people.
Yeah, there are a lot of drunk people out there and everything like that. But, you know, I guess we're going to figure out what the first year of Trump administration looks like as well, because a lot of people will be talking about that. And apparently they want next year to be a year of volunteering. So that's apparently is a new effort that Trump is putting out there. So what do you think about this idea of us going to like the Vista and AmeriCorps and all of this? So apparently they want 2026 to be a year of volunteerism.
So that is like a standard line with the Republicans when they cut. I'm echoing, but anyway, when they cut services, they expect private charity to make up for the difference, and that's garbage. You know,
that's a lot of garbage there and everything. But go ahead.
No, I'm let somebody else talk. I'm echoing.
Well, I just want to wish everyone a happy New Year. I've got to run to another meeting, but I just want to wish everyone a happy New Year. Maybe next year we'll recap next week. Just a great year, 1 year of Donald Trump. A lot to talk about. No real surprises. You know, ICE. We knew he was going to do that with the immigration raids. We didn't know that Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to resign. We have foreign policy war on Venezuela. You know, I think it's just a disruptive time. And of course, with the Democrats now looking at winning the House and the Senate, economy's not getting that much better. And you know, we're just going to see how AI continues to dominate the conversation. And in North Carolina, 1 year of Josh Stein as our governor. He's done a really good job, although he said he wants to pass a budget. And a new year for me in terms of not being a council member anymore, hoping I can be a commissioner. But I just want to wish you all a happy New Year.
How is your campaign going? I know you got to get ready to bounce and everything, but how is your campaign going, and what does it look like for the election in 2026? And what are your plans for the new year?
Oh, I'm just going to go out with my wife to a radio party that I host a show called Radio Naira, and we're going to do that. And I feel pretty good about my chances. We'll see what happens. I'm hearing good things, but I'll do the best I can, and accept the consequences, and that's all you can do. I've never lost an election, so I'm 4-0. But I'm gonna and I've always been the number one vote getter in every race I've ever run. So, but we'll see. We'll if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna leave it to the hands of God and focus on my emerging career in media and move on. But I'm kind of looking forward to it being
Sounds
over.
good.
And, seeing what the next step is.
Hey, Dr. Sharif, how far away are we from? How far away are we from 2026?
On Monday. Do we have a show tomorrow? No.
Yeah, we have a show tomorrow.
Okay, I may come on tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Sharif, how far away are we from the new year in Bangladesh and everything like that? So I know y'all are ahead of us. So what time is it there, and how many hours away are we from the New Year's, and what are your plans for New Year's Eve?
It's a 9:15 p.m. There is the echo. Mark, can you stop?
So about less than 3 hours away from the new year and everything like that. So you're going to go to some big Bangladesh party, or you're just going to relax and watch TV as you celebrate the beginning of 2026?
Okay. Mark, I think there is an echo from your side.
Could be on my side. Can you hear me?
Can you stop the mic?
I said, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I was just asking, what are you going to be doing for your celebration?
Okay. Okay. We will not go for any celebration this time because our ex-prime minister died yesterday,
Right.
and we have our prayer and all of the things, and all of the Bangladeshi people come to the prayers, and we do not want to go for any celebrations and others because it's a political issue. Then definitely, but we wish each other, and we are actually giving thanks, and maybe we will go for party. But definitely we will go for a controls as we lose our political leaders.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Through you, Mark, I don't know. But
yeah, I'm switching computers in a minute and everything like that. So if you want to
corrected about the past New Year's in Los Angeles. Sky Bar, which is a pretty hip place, is only $63 a person.
Oh wow!
The downtown Biltmore offers a murder mystery dinner, which sounds like no fun at all. I don't love those. And show, and that's $255 a person. So I haven't found one that's going to run you $1,000 yet.
Not yet, but I'm sure they got some like that. Get a chance, look at the Drudge Report, and then I'm going to switch computers real quickly and everything like that, so I can get all this, and it could be on my end. So let's see if we can do that. But if you'll go through the Drudge Report with Dr. Sharif, I'll be back in about 1 minute.
Okay. What's fun here on Drudge? So Megyn Kelly, who is a former Fox News personality, she says she doesn't care if Trump got handsy with some girls 20 years ago, as long as he gets trans people out of women's sports. If you've followed us at all, you know that there are very few trans people in women's sports. In the NCAA, which has 50,000 female athletes, fewer than 10 of them are trans, probably even less now after a year of Trump, and fewer than 5 of them are competitive, which means they have a chance to win anything. So that's a rate of like 1 athlete in 10,000, which shouldn't be something for people to get their panties or their man panties or whatever in a bunch about. But Megyn Kelly's kind of creepy because she says she doesn't care what Trump did with underage girls. What else? Mondami gets, I guess, at the stroke of midnight, I guess he becomes mayor. He's being sworn in under the city at the abandoned City Hall subway stop. I don't know why, but it's kind of, I don't know, Batman-ish. It's this cavernous space that used to be a subway station. What else? George Clooney and his wife Amal have become French citizens. They're kind of annoyed with America. They've lived at least part-time in France for years, and France is granting them and their kids citizenship. And at the same time, he's calling CBS and ABC pussies for settling with Trump when Trump sued him because he didn't like their news coverage.
I'm back now. Hopefully that's better and everything like that.
Yeah, now it's okay.
That's good. Thank you.
No problem. And we've been joined by Shaquille from Australia. So let's see what they're doing to celebrate. Because what time is it there in Australia, Shaquille, and everything like that? And what kind of things are y'all doing? I heard that y'all were definitely still dealing with the Bondi tragedy. And I guess maybe it's making the celebrations a little bit more low key and everything. But I know Australia, y'all like to party. So y'all might still be having parties and everything. So how are things going in Australia, and what kind of celebrations are y'all gonna be doing to bring in the new year? Because like Sharif, you're probably only a few hours away from turning the clock over to 2026.
Oh, I don't know. What's the go with this? Why is this not coming up? I want to go with my American friends. Hang on a sec.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Maybe you can't hear us.
I don't know. Oops. Well, there's Jatovi.
Jatovi's there.
All righty. Well, hello, everybody. How are we?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good.
How is the celebrations going in Australia for the new year? Because you're probably only about a few hours away from turning the clock over to 2026.
We're already in 2026. So you gentlemen from America will be very pleased to know that I am in your future.
You're in our future. Okay. It's already 2026. So what does 2026 look like?
Well, at the moment it's dark and it's raining in Sydney, so I might as well be in America. Hey, it's supposed to be our summer at the moment.
Wow. It's supposed to be y'all summer and everything. We haven't seen you in a while. So what's going on in Australia, and what are they talking about in the various parts of your world? Because I know you're involved and have your hands in many different projects. So what's going on in Australia, and what are you excited about for 2026?
Well, we're not going to talk about any business or politics today, I think, because, I don't want to upset Jatovi by continually coming up with these amazing points that he can't come up against. I'm teasing you, Jatovi. I've had a few champagnes. It's 2:00 in the morning over here. I am going to let you guys go in just a moment, but I'm looking forward to the next year. I will be over in the US for a lot of next year because allegedly you guys are celebrating your 250th anniversary.
Yes.
Which I don't know what. Sharif, if you can just back me up here for a moment. Our American friends, they always dislike me so much when I say this. It is not your 250th next year. Your 250th is not until 2033, right? You declared your independence in 1776, but you had to actually have a war first before you actually got independence, and you didn't get that independence until 1783. But I'll come over anyway because I'm sure it's going to be a mighty celebration.
Yeah, so to be Debbie Downer, the 200th anniversary in 1976 is said to have kicked off AIDS in America. That the world came to America to celebrate the bicentennial, and they got busy, and that marked the beginning of the spread of AIDS.
Look, I know you're from California, Rick. It's the best I could do on short notice, Mr. Comedian. It's not my fault. This was before I was born, and it certainly is not my fault that America was celebrating their bisexuality.
During their bicentennial. So that's what you said they would do it that same
They're
time.
bisexual. They're bisexual bicentennial. Yeah, that's the best you're going to get out of it at this moment.
I understand and everything like that. So it ought to be interesting to see how this all plays out and what goes on with the celebration. I don't know if y'all heard that earlier, but apparently, and this is a different thing that Trump is trying to do. So maybe this is a good effort because I think it was in the 60s or the 70s that there was this whole effort around volunteerism, and apparently that's one of the things that they want to do during the 250th is they want to have this notion of America's doing volunteer service throughout the United States. So this is something that the commission that was put together to help this get organized, put together, and definitely they are saying that they're calling a call for year-round community service in the year 2026. So that's what the semi-quincentennial commission wants to turn America's birthday celebration into the country's single biggest year for volunteering. So it's definitely
all right. A couple things. One is Republicans tend to be more generous and give more money to charity on average than liberals. But on the other hand, the idea that the government is cutting a bunch of services and then tells people, yeah, well, just take care of it yourself, that's a little hypocritical. You know, coming from Trump is not exactly Mr. Volunteerism.
So let me just quickly say, I don't really want to get into politics, but I do need to say this. I didn't come on the other day on my birthday. Firstly, yes, they say Republicans are more generous, but I think that's actually because of people like myself, although I'm not American, but I'll be on that side for the moment. I consider myself to be a liberal, right? And because I consider myself to be liberal, I'm very unhappy with the sorts of policies that I think Democrats are pushing and that I think the Labor Party is pushing in the UK and Australia. Okay, but that doesn't make me a conservative. Having said all of that, America is one of the most generous countries in the world. Australia is also one of the most generous countries in the world. We've just got to find a way to just love each other and understand each other and understand that we're going to have our differences sometimes. And sometimes we're going to argue like Jatovia and I always do. But, you know, we've got to understand that we all have a different perspective on life. I'll very just briefly address the issue that happened a couple of weeks ago in Bondi Beach.
yes.
So that happened on the 14th of December. My birthday is the 15th. That is absolutely horrific. And one of the things that media did was they ran to this is left wing or it's right wing or whatever. No, it's neither. These were some thugs that did something that was atrocious. And what I said on my other appearance was if you have issues or concerns with what Israel's doing in Palestine and the support that your government gives to that, go and protest out the front of your local member or your local representative. Okay? Go make your voice heard. But what happened in Bondi was absolutely not just unacceptable, it's un-Australian, and that has left a scar on this country. And there is nobody, the head of all of the imams here in Australia have talked about this is not the Muslim way of doing things. So that was absolutely horrible. And I hope that in 2026, we can put 2025 behind us and move towards maybe just showing each other a bit more love and affection.
So I just noticed Googling around this. Trump wants this in celebration of the 250th. He wants volunteerism and giving charity, but it's a United Nations effort calling 2026 the year of volunteerism. So it's a rare event when Trump and the United Nations agree on something.
Yeah, that is a rare event, but yeah, that maybe this is a.
But it's not about. It's not rare about what people agree on. And I was going to use an example of Jatovia. I know I've mentioned it a few times. I'm trying to get your attention a little bit here, right? Jatovia and I often have some pretty harsh debates and arguments online. I'm pretty sure that if I just happened to be in North Carolina and I broke my leg, and I just happened to be out the front of Jatovia's house, and I went and knocked on his door and said, "Hey, can you call me an ambulance?" I'm sure he'd call me an ambulance and sit with me until they got there, right? Because that's the kind of person Jatovia is, regardless of what he thinks of my political views. And the same thing vice versa. And I think that we shouldn't let the politicians and the elites separate us the way that they have been. And I think that if there's anything that people on the so-called left can get some solace in, It is the fact that the so-called MAGA group is currently having a bit of a civil war amongst themselves. They're fighting amongst themselves because they're fighting over values. And the people that will actually say we need to put America first, they actually talk about things that you would ordinarily think are on the left. You know, making sure that young people can afford housing, making sure that healthcare is affordable, making sure that everybody gets education. You would ordinarily consider that to be on the left. I've always thought that was something that was on the right. Maybe I'm wrong. But the point being, in 2026, let's move towards a better world where we show a little bit more love and affection to each other.
Yeah, that would be a great thing, and everything we can do that in 2026. I did see something that was interesting about politics and the whole notion of the economy, but apparently, and I don't know, because I know so you sometimes study statistics as well, Rick, but jobless claims decreased last week. So it looks like more people are actually getting back into the workforce, and that was reported by the Wall Street Journal. So what are our thoughts around this notion that maybe
all people are being taken out of the workforce?
So, I mean, as a lib, I keep expecting the numbers to go really bad because I'm skeptical of Trump's methods. On the other hand, like growth for what, Q3 was 4.3%. And if that number is legit, that's great growth. And the stock market has held up pretty well, though it's mostly the AI bubble. But, you know, I can dislike Trump, but still want America to do well. So I guess on balance, I want the numbers to continue to be good, even though, you know, so
Rick, so you preface that statement with "as a lib." Do you consider me to be a lib, or do you consider me to be a conservative?
I consider you to be knowledgeable and pragmatic, and you I assume embrace the more reasonable parts of you know of politics, where, you know, I mean, like Twitter. Somebody said yes on Twitter a couple of days ago that it's mostly a place for mentally ill people now, and yeah, the loudest people on social media are either nuts or pretending to be nuts. But you strike me as the opposite of that. That you look at the world and you travel all over the world. You do business all over the place. So you've got a pretty. Also, Jacoby is, everybody here is a business person, except maybe for me. I'm just a guy. I said I was going to put pants on, but I don't have pants on right now. I'm a guy who like takes naps, and you guys though all have like vast experience of the world, which leads to reasonable attitudes.
Yeah, no, but see, that's where I'd say to you, I don't, like, for me personally, I don't think that it's because I'm a business person or this and that. And by the way, I'm terrible at business, right? I'm good at like running things and policy, and I'm a fantastic trader, but I'm not really that great at business. That's the reason why I employ so many people to look after me. But when it comes to, let's say, the more liberal viewpoint, right? I've employed and worked with people who are trans. I've worked and employed people who, you know, were gay back, 20 years ago, and that was more of a big deal, right? Because I don't care. What I care about is how can we work together to, get a result that's mutually beneficial, and that's what I've always tried to aim for. And I think that's why I've said this, before in a previous show. I think that's why places like New York and California, those places where people go to, that's the reason why they're so much more open and liberal about these viewpoints. But look, the point being, look, we're always going to have disagreements, but I think that we should never look at each other as enemies. And that's, one of the things that I've done, and I'll put my hand up for it a bit. I've been unreasonably vicious towards Jacoby at times, and I think Jacoby has been unreasonably annoying to me at times. I think I've probably been most of the culprit on that. That's my fault. I shouldn't do that. And I think that for those of us that have gravitated towards the right, we do need to recognise that we all share this planet together. We all share our countries together. And we do need to recognise that there are issues that are facing people, and just try to take some semblance of understanding towards that. And as I said, I think what really reminded me of that was what happened on the 14th of December here in Bondi at the beach here.
Yeah,
that's the second most horrific event that's occurred in Australia's history, and it's broken the hearts of everybody, including me.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Shaquille, I think we've had this conversation before. I don't know if we ever had on the network and everything like that, but I've always thought, speaking of politics, that you were actually more on the libertarian side. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when I think of libertarians, I think that they are people that are fiscally conservative but socially liberal. Is that not a correct kind of idea of what a libertarian is?
Yeah, so in Australia, you've got the two major parties, right? For your country, Democrats, Republicans. For Australia, you've got the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. And the Liberal Party's thing is exactly what you just described, right? Fiscally conservative and socially liberal. However, we do also need to recognise, and I think this is why I probably argue so much with my American friends. If you have a look at, for example, universal healthcare in the UK and Australia, those were those were centre-right ideas. They weren't centre-left ideas. In fact, the centre-left opposed it. So I think there's probably a translation issue. I want to live in a country where we've got universal healthcare, universal education, where people have enough to eat, where we have social security services and social security funding so that people aren't left homeless, etc., etc. Those are all views that I consider to be centre-right views. But in America, they are very left-wing views in a lot of cases. So, and look, that's the reason why I've worked with the climate change agencies and I've been at the UN and all that sort of stuff, because I try to talk to my centre-right friends and say, hey, we care about these issues too. And if we don't like the way that the left is doing it, we need to come up with other plans that are also going to give a solution that people are going to be happy with.
So
but on that note, guys,
in the US, the term libertarian has been somewhat hijacked by the right. Like a lot of people who call themselves
it's been hijacked by the left over in your country in California, my friend.
I don't know, but there are a lot of people who, like, if you go on Twitter and somebody calls themselves a classical liberal, that means they're Republican, but they don't want to get yelled at for being Republican. And so, yeah, people play games with terms all the time. But yeah, libertarian is, a desire to have government do as little messing with your life as possible. But that messes in with the, it's not too far from like American libertarians, a lot of them, to the taxation is theft people, which is that you shouldn't have to pay any freaking taxes. So anyway,
I'm afraid I've got to leave. There's some champagne bottles being opened, so I'm going to get back to my people. But let me just very quickly say to you, Rick, the taxation is theft. I think it's how you're being taxed is what people like myself are complaining about. It's not us paying tax; it's how we're being taxed. And as far as the classical liberals not wanting to be, yelled at, because we don't, because we might not agree on certain social issues like transgender stuff that's happening at the moment, stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that we hate those people. We just, got some concerns. We'd like to be able to express it. But look, as I said, there's been a massive increase, in my opinion, in political violence in 2025. Let's make 2026 a more peaceful year. Yeah, and I'll certainly do my bit to try to have that happen. So to all of you gentlemen, Happy New Year. I hope you, well, it's not your New Year yet, but Happy New Year for when it is. And I'm going to call you all at midnight, your time.
All right, we'll be looking for that call. That's good.
All right, love you guys.
Take it easy. Appreciate you. Tell me, you got any plans for New Year's Eve here in Durham or anything along those lines, or any thoughts, or are you just going to be chilling with the kids and the wife? You're on mute.
That's all I got. Right now, just working on ads, but yeah, just doing nothing.
Well, speaking of that, one of the things that I did see that was interesting, that was another one of those reports that folks might be interested in, is apparently U.S. vaccination rates are plunging. So I know people are still concerned even about COVID at this particular time. And so folks are getting a chance to look at where their school stands, no matter where they are in the U.S. So are you still concerned about folks not vaccinating the way that they should, because apparently vaccination rates are plunging? Unfortunately, my nephew.
So we are a COVID household. All this past week, my wife caught COVID on our trip to see our kid, and she's been on Paxlovid all week, which is it's punishment for getting COVID, because it shuts it down. It stops the reproductive mechanism, but it gives you a horrible taste in your mouth, and it gives you runny poo. So the last week I've been running away from my wife so she doesn't breathe COVID cooties on me. It's a pain in the ass. COVID is dangerous, and it's still freaking out there. Though the numbers for COVID have been, they decline a little bit every year, but there's still 2 annual peaks, and we're in the middle of the annual peak. So you still have to be cautious. Plus, there's a ton of flu. The flu this year is pretty bad, and there's RSV. So there's a ton of respiratory stuff out there, and COVID chews up your immune system. I just read a study that if you catch COVID, you're 5 times as likely in the next month to get sick with something entirely different compared to people who didn't have COVID, because your immune cells are depleted. I guess COVID gets in there and it just blows them all up.
Wow. And the flu bug, you're right, that's still out there, because my nephews usually go to spend with their granddad, my dad, at the beach time and all along those lines. But unfortunately, one of them came down with the flu before the trip. It looked like he was getting over it, but then looks like the temperature went back up, so he's back home and everything along those lines. So the flu bug is definitely still out there. So folks got to be cautious and protective and all along those lines, because it is still.
Jon Stewart is causing controversy because he did a piece making fun of people who still wear masks. But there's still a need to wear masks. But it's New Year's Eve, and the deal is, if you wear a mask, you'd have to be extra charming to hook up with anybody with a rando while you're wearing a mask. It makes it tough. But if you're not trying to get laid tonight, then put on a mask if you don't care. Like I'm like 40 years past the point where I'm going out and trying to hook up. So, I don't feel super cool in a mask, but it doesn't matter. And so,
speaking of cool, is it cool to be and this is a different story that I saw, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts around this, but apparently ICE is planning a $100 million wartime recruitment push targeting gun shows and military fans for hire. So they're planning to spend over $100 million over a 1-year period to recruit gun rights supporters and military enthusiasts through online
idea.
Geo-targeted advertising campaign.
I mean, it's par for ICE, but you don't want the paradox of policing is that a lot of the people who want most desperately to be police shouldn't be police. Jatovi, your sister, I think, is police. And I would guess that she is not like a crazy, rabid, gun guy who, wants to, you don't want like lunatics being police officers.
Exactly. That's the old adage. If you're the person who's seeking power the most should be the person with power the least.
Yeah, I was a bar bouncer for years, and I loved it, and I liked the little bit of power I had, and that told me I should in no way be a police officer, because you don't want that. You want somebody who wants to help people.
Yeah, you definitely want somebody who's going to be a community advocate and somebody who's going to be helping folks and everything like that. Another interesting conversation that came up was apparently England was in the news for a couple of things, so you'll be interested in this. Rick, and everything, because I know you still have your daughter over there with her husband and all along those lines. But Queen Camilla says in a radio discussion about violence against women, because that's an issue that's not just in the U.S. but around the world, that she was assaulted on a train as a teenager. So this all came up in a discussion about the notion of women being not having the same rights and not being protected as much as they should be, whether it was then or whether it was in the past. So she recalled being on a train reading a book when this boy man attacked her. She says that she fought back and remembered feeling angry and being so furious. She recalled that when she got off the train, her mother said, "Why is your hair standing on end, and why is the button missing from your coat?"
So,
and apparently she's been a major person campaigning to raise awareness about domestic and sexual violence.
So in both our countries, the UK and the US, I think it's like one woman in 3 or so suffers some form of sexual assault. The numbers tend to be bad. My wife had several incidents on the train, the subway in New York. Fortunately, they weren't so bad, but like one guy stood in front of her, she was sitting down, and he grew a boner right in front of her face. It was in his pants, but he's like, "Hey, check this out." And my wife did not want to check it out.
Yeah, she had no interest in checking that out.
She gets enough of that at home.
That is not correct.
What happened? Wait, she's saying, what happened?
Without pants on.
Oh, well, no, you had 2 things happen. Another thing, she's telling me another thing. A guy gets in front of her in a long, trench coat, opens up the coat. His pants stopped at the middle of his thighs and his shirt stopped, and in between there was nothing but his penis. Wow. So he was a flasher. So again, not something, she gives it home. She doesn't want to see it on the way to.
Speaking of things that are home and all the things along those lines, and this is something slightly different, but it's a network issue and all along those lines. Are we recording this weekend or next weekend, the next edition?
I got to send out an email, but I've said this weekend.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, we can work it out this weekend. I was just trying to remember whether we said it was on the 4th. I believe that's the date of that particular Sunday, or whether we were doing it on the 11th and everything like that.
No, I think the 4th.
The 4th will work for me. What is your thoughts around folks that get these night, speaking of England, that was the other thing that came up in England, because among King Charles, New Year honors, because it is New Year's, I think, there as well, or at least it's about to be and everything. But Sir Idris Elba, the actress, and Cynthia Erivo were among some of those people that were knighted and everything. So apparently that's a tradition around New Year's, is to find out whether you're going to get knighted. So is there any possibility that you're going to get knighted in the near future, Rick?
I haven't done anything worth getting knighted for. I'm still optimistic that I will, but no. And there are different levels of getting knighted in England. And
well, apparently Elba was honored as Dr. Idris Akana Elba, and he was awarded a knighthood for services for young people on Monday, December 29th, given his work bringing attention to knife crime, which we sometimes forget about, among young people in Britain. And the Luther Star 53 has been a vocal advocate for youth and has called for the British government to better address youth violence by banning serrated knives and machetes to reduce knife crime. So apparently they've got an issue with knife crime, and he's an alum of the King's Trust and has been involved in charity work to support youth as well. So that's why he got his honoring and everything.
So I looked up the statistics. 70 to 100 people get knighted in Britain every year. There are 3,000 people living who are either Sir or Dame. Once you get knighted, you're entitled to use the title Sir.
Well, and apparently, just to get to Cynthia Erivo, the Wicked Star was given an Order of the British Empire. The Emmy, Grammy, and Tony Award-winning Oscar-nominated singer and actress was appointed a member of the Order for services to music and drama. So apparently, it's because of her work in the arts and everything like that. So she said to be given this recognition to celebrate the work that I love to do within the arts, specifically music and drama, is an honor I could never have thought would happen. I hope it shows that I care deeply about the work and will continue to do so to the best of my ability. So she's definitely glad, both of them, that they got those honors and everything along those lines. You were talking about, and I know we sometimes have the medical show, Rick, and everything along those lines. But apparently the U.S., and I know Dr. Patmos has brought it up a couple of times, has hit 2,000 measles cases for the first time in more than 30 years. So I know we were talking about flu, but do we need to be worrying about measles as well? Because apparently that's another issue that's out there as well.
Yeah, if you have a kid or if you're around kids, it's an issue because you want 95% of kids to be vaccinated for a particular disease, particularly a super contagious disease like measles, to give you herd immunity. Now, in a lot of parts of the U.S., the percent vaccinated has dropped under 90%. That's not enough to stop the spread of measles. And measles, people don't remember measles as being a terrible disease, and they confuse it with chickenpox. Chickenpox is not so bad. And they used to have chickenpox parties where kid gets chickenpox, all the kids get invited over, they all catch it. Now they're all immune from chickenpox for the rest of their lives. However, they're all going to get shingles because it's the same virus that sits dormant until you're older. But people confuse measles and chickenpox, and they say, like Joe Rogan's indicated, yeah, measles, we all caught it. It was no big deal. It is a big deal. It like COVID can screw with your immune system. So even if measles doesn't screw you up, it can cause you to catch something that will debilitate you or kill you 6 months or a year later. So yeah, measles can be bad.
Speaking of things that can be bad, what's up with our security systems? Because I know the Louvre has been robbed. We've had other people that robbed, and then I just saw a story that just crossed my news feed that says thieves tunneled into a bank vault and stole millions from safe deposit boxes and everything like that. And that was in Germany. So apparently they drilled a large hole in the wall of a basement bank vault and stole tens of millions of dollars worth of valuables, according to what the police in the northwestern city of Gelsenkirchen said on Tuesday. So, and the thieves apparently are on the run, urging with those with tips to come forward. So it's like security not as good as it used to be, or what's going on?
No, security's probably better, but security's not adequate. If you've got a large public, exhibition hall. When we visited our kid, we went to the Wallace Collection, which is, they must have, I don't know, $1 billion worth of art hanging on the walls of this mansion. And I'm sure they've got somebody in every room to make sure you don't get too close to the paintings. And I'm sure they've got all sorts of alarms and stuff, but it's a public space. People can case the space. They can figure out if they're going to steal stuff, how they're going to do it. And there's a thing called confirmation bias, which in the case of museums, it's like, well, nobody's robbed us. We've been here for 100 years, so probably nobody's going to rob us. That's not how you get complacent.
But they got complacent in LA as well, because apparently LAPD just dismantled the largest Home Depot crime ring in history. $3.7 million were seized and everything like that. So between 2023 and 2025, a massive theft spree targeted Home Depot stores across Southern California, and they took a lot of money from that popular store and everything along those lines. So
money or home equipment and supplies.
Right.
The Home Depot used to have somebody, and usually still has at the exit, like checking receipts. But they don't. It's like at Costco. They can't check it item by item generally. And they call it breakage. That every store expects 2% of inventory to go missing.
They go disappearing because they figure it's just going to be somebody's going to grab it, take it away, and everything like that. And that's in both profit and nonprofit organizations. And Sasha, you've joined us and everything like that. Got any big New Year's Eve plans and everything like that? I know we're going to be doing modern investment in about 2 hours and everything along those lines. But any big plans, you and your wife or any of your kids joining you for New Year's Eve celebration?
No big plans. We are going to celebrate with our friends. We'll visit their house, and there will be a few people. will continue tomorrow. And so then we'll relax until the end of the week. Mark, please have reruns on Friday of
Okay.
your shows. And the links, prepare links for the.
Yeah, I've already got the links ready for. I'll just get rid of the one for Friday. The only one I've got to get for you is the chess links, and I'll get those done today.
Okay. Well, what's happened with Ukraine in the last couple of days is Russia made absolutely unproven claim that there was an attempt to attack Putin's or one of the Putin's residences. Now, of course, what they're saying is that it was attacked by 91 drones. So they have exact number of those drones. And on one map, they even show locations and their map of how they were actually flying from Ukraine to the Putin's residence. Except one thing, they actually destroyed all the 91 drones. So there must be easy proof of here on this location we shoot down the drone supposedly from Ukraine, and this is its remains, and show exactly what we are talking about. Not 91, at least one that hasn't been done. And when Putin announced that to Trump, and Trump, that fool, started to jump that he's so upset about Zelensky. How dare he is doing that? Although now it's calmed down somewhat. There's asking for any proof of that attack, and there is no proof because there's never attack anyway. Now, on a serious note, the reason why Putin did that, they are trying, you see, Zelensky is a major obstacle on Putin and Trump's plans. So if he would be somehow eliminated, so then everything would go much faster, much quicker, and even perhaps Ukraine will capitulate once Zelensky is destroyed. So that Putin's announcement about this so-called attack is an attempt to legitimize the killing of Zelensky, elimination of Zelensky. That's really what's going on, and I will not be surprised that there will be serious attempts on life of Zelensky. That's the only reason why that happened.
Yeah, that makes sense and everything. I know we've only got a few more minutes to go and everything, but Rick, I just saw an interesting story that you'll be interested in that has to deal with immigration and all along those lines. But it says that a week after immigrant groups filed a lawsuit, California said yesterday it's going to delay the revocations of 17,000 commercial driver's licenses until March to allow more time to ensure that truckers and bus drivers who legally qualify for the licenses can keep them. But U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has already said the state may lose $160 million if it doesn't meet the January 5th deadline to revoke the licenses, and he's already withheld $40 million in federal funding because he said California isn't enforcing English proficiency requirements for truckers.
So what happened is that some undocumented immigrant got a commercial truck driving license and caused a horrific car wreck. He was driving a giant truck and he caused a horrific wreck where people died. And, so the DHS and Duffy, and they're all saying, well, there must be thousands of illegals driving trucks and killing people, and we can't let illegals be licensed. So it's just kind of a push to F with immigrants again. So one immigrant killed a ton of people with his truck. Native-born Americans kill a ton of people with their trucks too, but they're going to focus on this one thing, and they're going to F with. And yeah, you should probably understand what signs mean if you're going to drive a frickin' truck. but it's partly about safety, but it's mostly about effing with illegals.
Yeah, it looks like they're messing with the illegals and others
That's
through
all
the
it's
U.S.
about.
Postal Service, because they said the U.S. Postal Service made a minor change to a decades-long policy that could spell big trouble if you never realize it. The postmarket system, because I know people even use that in copyrighted, traditionally marks proof someone met a deadline to send a letter. Now USPS has altered this system, which will impact how and when you receive mail ballots, texts, and healthcare information, and possibly even like if you're an author, how you send your books and everything like that. So definitely it looks like they are changing the rules that could mess with people in a lot of different ways.
So what they're saying that a
so
postmark is no longer proof of
Yeah.
the date when you put it in the mail.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they're doing because that's what they're trying. So that's a shift of topic because what they're that's different than messing with people than what Rick was talking about.
Right.
What Rick was talking about is messing with people based on race, and that's what this administration constantly does. For example, with the everything going on in Minneapolis, where they're now withholding all the funding for childcare stuff in Minnesota and so on and so forth. And they're talking about, oh, well, we want to get rid of all Somali people. Well, they didn't mention anything about the white people or the white woman who was actually one of the big ringleaders. Didn't say anything about her, but it was all about messing
She was
with
the biggest ringleader. She was in charge
Exactly.
of $250 million worth
Exactly.
of fraud.
but they never mentioned her at all.
And she's already been prosecuted and found
Yep.
guilty.
And that's the thing. They've never mentioned her. They never talk about her. And this is suddenly a big issue, which has been researched for a while, but it's used to, again, mess with people. It's messing with the Somali individuals that are there. They don't even care about the fact that it has been investigated. It is being investigated. They just want to attack the Somali individuals because they're black. The same thing with the trucker situation, messing with it because he's an immigrant. And they're trying to use this as a whole immigration thing, and all the other stuff. So that's a problem. What you're talking about with the postmark piece, that was the messing with people around voting. They wanted to set it to where mail-in voting isn't going to get counted based on your postmark date, which a lot of people do actually when they do their mail-in voting. It gets postmarked before the actual deadline.
And liberals, Democrats tend to vote more strongly by mail.
Yep, and that's what this is. That's all that is. But the problem with that, guess what happens with your taxes when you mail in your taxes now? So if you mail in your taxes on that postmark date of April 14th, April 15th, or before April 15th, and it doesn't get there until after that deadline, now your taxes are late. Now you're getting hit with penalties and everything else on your taxes because now it's not counting that postmark date. It's just a bunch of trash that they're trying to do that's going to affect more than what they want to affect. It's just a made up thing that they're utilizing to send to their base. Their base goes ahead and parrots it as if this is a brilliant idea, but doesn't realize the consequences of what they're doing. And they just it's just another trash idea.
Kind of like the Kennedy Center not being the Kennedy Trump Center.
Well,
It's like what Texas did 10 years ago with voting, where they said your college ID doesn't count as ID to cast a ballot. Because, so we don't know that your college may be shitty at making sure that that's really you. On the other hand, hunting licenses, perfectly good to vote, even though hunting licenses are just a piece of paper that don't even have your picture on it.
And
Because gun owners vote Republican, college students vote Democrat.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's
so
really
it's just everything that's going on right now. What this administration is doing. Honestly, Sasha, to speak about your history a little bit, this is what went on when Putin took over Russia. This is all the propaganda and everything. This is a playbook that has been used before. So, I mean, we're here now.
And
Yeah,
propaganda is cheap. It costs almost nothing. Putin spends what, $30 million a year on propaganda, which to influence the world. And it makes millions of people believe bullshit and get crazy. And $30 million is nothing. That's the cost of, 1/50th of a submarine. It's 1/10 of a fighter jet.
And there's a lot of misinformation that's out there and everything like that. I mean, even though we're having a horrible year, my alma mater got caught up in that because one of our players left, and there was all kinds of rumors about a altercation and fight between him and one of the assistant coaches. But even our current coach was like, no, that was nothing but made up fake internet news, and it wasn't a reality when Zay Lowry left and everything like that.
College sports, big time football and basketball, and even some of the smaller sports, it's crazy now because it used to be it was very difficult to transfer schools. You'd lose a year of eligibility. Now you can transfer, I think, just about any time. I don't know, maybe you can only do it once a year. But anyway, you don't lose any eligibility. So a kid can play sports at 2, 3, 4 different schools, depending on who's going to give him the better offer, which means the good college athletes are always being recruited, even if they're already playing for a team. So the coaches of these teams, like Belichick, I think one reason that he sucked as a college coach was he couldn't deal with this environment of constant recruiting and holding on to his people.
You got to constantly recruit. You got to hold on to your people and all along those lines. And now there's even talking about letting people come back from after they have played in the pros to go back to college. I think.
Well, I looked it up for LeBron because I won't really want LeBron when he's done playing the pro basketball. I want him to go play college basketball. I think that would be fun. But according to what I read, he can't. That when you play pro basketball, you can't go back. But he could. Though he'd be crazy to, he could play college football. He still has his eligibility for that because he never went to college.
I thought they changed that rule because I thought that there were some players that have started coming back that have been drafted and everything like that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if he wanted to do that, and he should for a reality show. LeBron goes to college because he skipped college and he plays. He plays for some. I'm sure they could find some little community college that doesn't belong to the NCAA, and he builds a team and he continues to,
dominate.
A 45-year-old LeBron is sitting in one of those terrible little desks that nobody fits in, and then playing like college hoops would be really fun.
That would be fun to watch. That could be a great movie. As we get ready to wind down, it does look like millions of Americans receiving Social Security benefits are going to be facing delays because of that lovely thing called a backlog. So they're definitely saying that. But the Washington Post piece is full of Pinocchio. Social Security provided multiple on the record statements to refute what they're saying is fake news.
I have one more idea for LeBron. So he's played pro men's basketball. I don't know if the rule extends to women's basketball. So like LeBron goes back to college, he goes a little bit trans, and he plays for a women's team. He puts on a wig, he puts on full makeup, he plays with a bunch of women. I'd watch that show too.
So you're gonna watch Joanna Man Part 2?
Yes.
Joanna Man Part 2. That could be a great one and everything like that. But we're going to get on out of here and everything like that. We'll be back tomorrow on the 1st and see how folks' celebrations went. Don't have any big ones myself and everything along those lines, but we'll see what folks did, and we'll get ready.
We're doing a show tomorrow?
As far as I'm concerned, because I'm grading paper, so I'll be in the house anyway.
All right. See you then. Happy New Year.
All right. Take it easy. Bye.